And it is November 4th, 2025, and we are in our Habits of Health book, and we are in part 2. So this will be, good question, does it actually go into 2.1? All right, so in part 1, Preparing for Your Journey, we explained how our ancient biological and mental programming is failing to perform effectively against advancing technology. This mismatch shows up for so many as a progressive deterioration in our physical, mental, social, and spiritual lives. For you, it may show up as weight gain, unwanted fat accumulated around your waist, lack of energy, lower enthusiasm, poor sleep, or feeling like you're just getting by in many or all aspects of your life. What does that sound like? Metabolic dysfunction? It doesn't have to be that way. Let's explore a path focused on taking responsibility, organizing your choices, and making your decisions in a very different way. It moves away from the problem solving, the zero-sum game taken by so many, and instead moving to the transformational, creative process of the habits of health. We investigated your readiness to make the necessary changes to create optimal health and well-being in your life. And for me, right lately, the big thing that keeps standing out to me is we are not putting band-aids on things. We are not in a process of preventative even. We are creating optimal health. That's the words that I seem to have missed. We are creating. So we dove into the 6 key macro habits and how their installation will update our 10,000-year-old software to help you adapt to a rapidly changing world. We then discussed the power of habits as the master lever in transforming your health and life, including how habits are formed, how we build new ones, and how we use the creative process to methodically install your new habits of health, one micro habit at a time. So celebrate the millimeters. A deep dive into you and how you think, feel, act has equipped you with a new way of taking back control of your decisions and choices. You took your place in the driving seat of this system and are ready for the journey. And we discussed how you can influence the people, places, and things in your surroundings to support you on a journey which is really going to be a lifetime's adventure. In this edition, we are going to organize your journey around learning, understanding, assimilating, installing, and becoming the 6 macro habits which we discussed earlier. I want to set the stage for you with a story. Rocks, pebbles, sand, and the mason jar. Let me retell a story I have heard many times since I was a young man. It's the story of rocks, pebbles, sand, and a mason jar. A teacher comes into a classroom and places a mason jar filled with rocks before the class and asks them if the jar is full. Yes, they respond. Not so, said the teacher, and he reaches for a pail of small pebbles. He pours them into the jar, shaking it until they fill the spaces between the rocks. He asks the class if the jar is full. Yes, they say again. Not yet, says the teacher, and he adds a scoop of sand to the jar. He tilts the jar until the sand has run all the way through the gaps in the bottom. Once again, he asks the class if the mason jar is full. The class inspects the jar. They conclude there is no more room for anything else. Smiling, the teacher grabs a pitcher of water and proceeds to fill the jar to the brim. As he places the jar back on the desk, he explains how the jar is an analogy for our lives. The jar is your life. The rocks are the big things in your life: family, spouse, health, hope, dreams. The pebbles are the things that give life meaning: friendships, work, hobbies, and the sand and the water represent the small stuff that fills the rest of your time. The point: if you fill your jar with the small stuff, how will you ever be able to find space for the big, important things? The habit of health system is like the mason jar, creating a microenvironment of health to protect you against your unhealthy surroundings. I love this story for lots of reasons. Its principal lesson is the building block of the Habits of Health transformational system. Life is a series of choices, and some of them are more important than others. It's the prioritization of those choices that creates the proper motivation to drive everything you can accomplish. Since the origin of the story is unknown, I am going to adopt this strong visual analogy because it's a wonderful way of explaining and describing our system. It is a perfect structure that we can use to empower your new story and your journey. The Habits of Health system is like the mason jar, creating a microenvironment of health to protect you against your unhealthy surroundings. The 6 macro habits of health are the foundations of optimal health and well-being. These are the rocks that must be placed in the jar in order to create lifelong transformation and protect you from the modern world's negative side effects. They are the foundations. It is critical that we address all 6 macro habits of health. We have to take time to focus and place these rocks in our jar to create the foundations necessary for long-term success. If we fail to tackle each of these keystones of our micro environment of health, then the structure will be weakened and our chances of withstanding the effects of our modern world will be decreased. Next come the primary and secondary habits that are derived from the 6 macro habits. These primary and secondary habits are the pebbles that now surround, reinforce, and actually arise from the foundational rocks. These habits of health can be further broken down into sand and micro habits of health. These are the thousands of small choices that are part of our daily life. The positive actions that are so small that we can always do them. If you consider that we make over 200 food decisions every day, each micro action either adds to our health and life or detracts from it. The sand represents what appears to be insignificant choices when made on their own, but when placed in the jar and mixed with water, they become the concrete that makes the jar a formidable force against any external challenges to your health and well-being. We live in an obesogenic world where we are surrounded by so many things that can have a negative effect on our weight and our health. As we described in part 1.1, it's not your fault that you're struggling of this book. It is clear that it really isn't your fault that you are struggling with your weight, with your health, with your well-being. And this chaotic, unhealthy, stressful world full of unhealthy food is not going to change in the near future. So it makes sense to start this journey by addressing how we help you overcome the effects of the obesogenic world and put you in charge of your weight management system. Our focus on you becoming your own boss and empowering you with the capability to reach and sustain a healthy weight will place the first keystone in the jar and set a platform for others. And here's the picture. The 6 habits of health. Habit of healthy weight management, not weight loss. So that's weight loss, weight gain, weight health. Habits of healthy eating and hydration. Habits of healthy motion. Habits of healthy sleep. Habits of a healthy mind. Habits of healthy surroundings. It is important to note that the installation of each of these 6 macro habits will be accomplished most successfully by utilizing all the parts of the Habits of Health transformational system. So Dr. A's Habits of Health is the compendium for health and well-being. It is a definitive guide to accompany you for the rest of your life, and it will give you what is necessary to optimize your health and well-being. It will provide you with the evidence, science, and detailed explanation to help you really understand what it takes to create optimal health and well-being. It's the book you're holding at this very moment. Your Lifebook is a personal journal and modular system to make sure that you are hitting the milestones on your health and well-being journey. It is the practical companion to this book, and it will help you with your application of the system. It is the documentation of your new and developing story. I know you may not have used a journal before, but there's evidence to suggest that those who write down their goals and use a journal to monitor their own progress are more successful. This hybrid personal piece also contains a series of elements that contain critical building blocks that you will want to master. If you work with a coach, as I suggested, you should. They will help guide you through the succession of important elements at a pace that works for you, and that's also in our disclaimer now, is working with a coach makes the things happen. Not working with a coach, you will not get as much success. And this has the other app. We're going to talk about it like it's our app. The Optavia app is a companion to the system designed to act as a habit installer, a way to set day-to-day reminders to help make sure you are consistently building macro habits that over time will change everything. It becomes available to you once you join our healthy community, and along with your own personal coach, will become an important asset in building your new life story. We will unpack the 6 macro habits in part 2 as you progress on your journey to optimal health and well-being. Many of the parts will include more than one of the macro habits, and we will do an extensive review of each. The parts build and are designed to be read in sequence, though reading them independently will also be of benefit. The 6 macro habits of healthy surroundings will be embedded throughout because the modification of what is around you will be uniquely applied to each area you are working on. We will pull valuable information from each macro habit when necessary to support the area you are focusing on at the present moment. You will note that in part 2, your journey to optimal health and well-being, we will build a progressive path to better health and well-being, focusing on and then placing each of the keystone macro habits in your jar. We spent part 1 teaching you the why, how, and what of building a new transformational life. In part 2, we have first outlined the importance of addressing all 6 of the macro habits and how you will want to use the book, Your Lifebook, and app as powerful tools on this journey to optimal health and well-being. We will start with the first keystone macro habit of healthy weight management, which is a habit that eludes so many because it is interdependent on so many factors, all of which we will unpack in the upcoming segments. So turn the page and let's demystify this crazy world of nutritional pollution, diets, and fat accumulation, and instead lay out a simple, effective way to help you not only reach, but also maintain a healthy weight in an obesogenic world. The Habits of Health on the sidebar. The Habits of Health logo is designed to represent the path to optimal health and well-being. It is built on the 6 macro habits as 6 progressive solid walking stones. In addition, the design depicts a cairn with the 6 macro habits stacked, designing the support and balance to each other in a powerful independency, and as a cairn in nature indicates a trailhead. Our logo designates the adventure waiting you as you ascend on the path to optimal health and well-being. It's the little stack of rocks there. All right, guys, and I think